This series is called On My Terms. It's a space for conversations with people who are intentionally building lives that are authentic to them. In these conversations, we talk about choice, uncertainty, and what it really takes to live in alignment with yourself. In today's conversation, I am sitting down with Daisy. Daisy is a visionary with multiple businesses, but this conversation isn't about productivity or success. It's about the climb. The moments where choosing yourself feels risky, the parts of the journey people don't usually share or talk about, and what it takes to keep going when the path gets steep. We talk about ambition, confidence, doubt, and the idea of climbing your own Mount Everest. Let this episode be a reminder that building life on your own terms isn't about how quickly you can get to the top. It's about starting in the first place. I am really glad you're here for this conversation. Let's get into it. I want to jump right in. So, for people who may not know you yet, how do you describe what you do and the life you're building right now?
I would say overall, I am like a visionary slash kind of brand creator, director, but I think visionary would overall describe who I am at the moment. And I'm currently working on just making everything that I want come to life.
You're also an entrepreneur. You have three different businesses. You have Pretty Picnic Things, you have PM Collections, and you have Liliana Florals. And so, entrepreneurship isn't exactly the safest or most secure path. So, was there a moment when you realized you wanted more than a safe or conventional life?
Yes, so I knew like at the age of 17, I was like, I want to leave, I want to live, and I want to just start. And so I think school was kind of like the foundational thing that I needed to do. But the biggest thing that a lot of people don't know is I also invested into property really early on in my teens. And so that's actually what led me to financial freedom to allow me to do the things that I'm able to do now.
This reminds me of a time when I came to you for advice and you introduced me to the idea of climbing your Mount Everest. Can you explain what that analogy means to you?
Yes, that's my favorite analogy ever. I always say, like, if there's people who have never looked up like what goes into climbing Mount Everest, it's like crazy insane. I mean, you have to like walk miles to get to the base camp, which is like not even the beginning of like the journey starts before getting to the mountain. And so essentially, people climb this mountain. And a lot of people don't survive. A lot of people, it's a mental game, it's a physical game. And so there's the people of Nepal that'll actually help you get up there. So you can either do it with someone, from the community there to help you guide you get up there, or you can do it on your own. And so essentially, I always tell everyone that they have their own Mount Everest. Maybe we don't want to all climb that big mountain that's super expensive, but essentially, you have all of your goals. What does your Mount Everest look like? What are the things at the top of that mountain that you're like, this is what I want. This is what's going to align best with me. And I always say, right, you need to prepare, you need to take tools, you learn different things as you're climbing this mountain. Someone's not piggybacking you, you're not piggybacking off of someone. You either have a mentor, like that person from Nepal helping you all the way up, or you're doing it on your own. And, maybe at the bottom you learned, okay, maybe I need to ground my feet more or something. But the point is, as you're scaling this on your own, this mountain of life, it's like there's so many different things and challenges that you have to do to get up there. And there's always going to be another mountain to climb, So like the journey never ends.
What part of the climb do you think most people underestimate or avoid?
I think it's the beginning. I think it's the beginning
Mm.
and it's the top. It's never the middle because I feel like you're kind of already there. You're either going to go up or you're going to just come down or you're going to stay there, fight or flight. And I think that a lot of people don't really say, let me sit down and map out what this journey is going to look like in order to succeed, right? Like I think a lot of people sometimes are like, I want this, I want that, but there's no game plan. They haven't planted the seed, they haven't, XYZ.
I totally agree. As someone who has struggled in the past with kind of staying consistent with goals and actually writing it down and having structure around all the dreams and visions I have, I feel like having this analogy really helped me get organized because your Mount Everest is kind of like the overall goal. And then it requires you to break those steps down and then actually take steps towards it. And so I really, really like this analogy, especially if you're someone like me who's a visual person and needs more structure in your life when you're trying to achieve your goals. And so now I want to know, were there any moments on your climb where you seriously questioned whether it was worth it? If so, what kept you going?
You know what's funny? It's like karma and the universe in its own way. It was actually when I signed up for school. So I didn't do the traditional route of like going to college. I went to college later on because I wanted to. And I've always been the type of person that's like never really pursued passion. I've always kind of been more of like logical thinking. And it's funny the way the universe works because my last semester, I took this class that I was supposed to take my first year of freshman year, which was like this writing class. It was like a 101. And they made us read this book where it talks about like, do not pursue the ego. It was like, pursue what you are passionate about because it's going to make your college experience so much easier. And I majored in biochemistry and I learned quickly that this was not for me, but I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to figure it out. And I've always been someone who like, if I want something so bad, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. And that was a time in college where I was like, do I switch my major now? Do I not switch it? Do I switch it, my senior year of high school, of college? So that was kind of challenging for me, truly.
And so, what exactly kept you going in those hard moments?
I think for me, it was more of like, I told myself, I said, when I go to college, actually, I didn't even know how to sign up for school, like being completely
Mhm.
honest. No one in my family had ever attended college. And so I remember just thinking back to like literally that first day I ever went to a college campus. I didn't know anything about the parking, the situation. I just remember parking somewhere. I said, if I get a ticket, I'll pay it later. And I just remember going up to this girl and I was just like, if I wanted to sign up for college today, where do I go? She's like, administration. I was like, can you show me on a map? Boom. I would get lost. I would find someone else, tell me where to go. And so I just thought back to that of like, again, when you really want something so bad, you'll do whatever it takes. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, how do I make this fun? How do I change my perception and, make this fun? But yeah, getting through the hurdles was mostly just like telling myself, show up every day and just do what you have to do. Like you're going to look back and be like, it wasn't a degree that you wanted, it was the challenge itself. And I did it.
And I will say, when I think of you, I think of someone who is very self-assured and decisive. And so I want to know, was confidence always natural for you or was it built?
I love this question. Because it's crazy. I feel like I can be perceived as very arrogant at times. And I think like if you know me, if you know my heart, you would know that like again, right, you can't judge somebody. If someone accidentally calls you the wrong name, are you like, wow, you're canceled forever? Or are you like, hey, that was my friend, they messed up. I know their intentions, right? Is it something as simple as a name or something? But for me, confidence, I had the worst self-esteem growing up. I had like the worst. I thought I was so ugly. I was so mean to myself. I was my biggest critic. I also had someone in my family who kind of made me validate those feelings that I was feeling and kind of make me feel that way. And so I grew up wearing a lot of Bobby Jack. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand,
Mm.
but it was like sold at JC Penney's and it was this like monkey and it would say the cheekiest things. It would have like a monkey blowing like a bubble gum and it would be like can't pop my bubble or like it's very cheesy. It was such a like a bratty little monkey that was so confident and I was just like, I would always tell myself like I gotta tune into like my Bobby Jack or Tyra Banks was also someone that was just huge at the time like being 8 years old and watching America's Next Top Model. She'd always be like, you gotta be fierce, you gotta be fierce. And I just kind of love that. And lastly, like, I think it was my drive for what I've always wanted in life that has given me confidence, like to make me feel like I am on top of the world. And like the first time I ever heard Flashing Lights by Kanye West, I was over the moon because I was like, I am absorbing everything he's saying and like the world really is mine. And I think when I realized that like you can have anything that you want in life as long as you put yourself out there, the confidence just naturally came with it. And I always say like everyone should be your best cheerleader. You are worthy of anything and everything. And like if you really learn to love yourself, the world becomes so much easier and prettier.
I feel like that's really reassuring, especially as someone who is on that journey of building that confidence. And I actually had the opportunity to interview Biddy, who's a content creator, and both of your stories kind of have parallels to where like you both kind of grew up feeling unattractive and kind of grappling with that low self-esteem. And so hearing how you overcame that, people like you and Biddy, is like really inspiring. Now I want to know, what are you climbing toward in this current season of your life?
There's so many things, and actually, it's so funny because I feel like I'm always climbing, except for, I guess, see, I want to say even when I went to school, I took a break, but I didn't because I went to school. But I recently have learned I just have the biggest passion for flowers, and it's something that has never slowed me down and stopped me and been like, I am living in the moment. I feel so mindful. It's something I could, if someone was like, hey, I want a floral arrangement at 2 a.m., I would not hesitate like to be like, let me figure this out. And so currently, I mean, there's plenty of, again, the foundational logistic things that need to happen, like sustaining your business, making sure, profits are being met, like hitting every quarter, taxes, XYZ. And I think that's kind of like my baseline. And I love saying this because sometimes people have this perception that like they can just have a business and it's supposed to be successful. And I've just learned to make it a thing where as long as the baseline is being hit, like then I'm allowed to just kind of, I don't know, do other things and be creative. And so the flowers has been my biggest passion. Currently working on getting a storefront, and I think I'm about to tap into all of my brands are like segments of my life. And so I'm about to tap into like my childhood with this next new business venture. Yeah. So
That's really exciting. I feel like when I met you, you were going full force with pretty big things. And just to see how far you've come, like, I'm so proud of you. And I really feel like it's important to have people in your life who are doing the things that you want to do and like having them in close proximity, because like you don't know how much you've inspired me and pushed me just by being in my circle. And because in my head, I'm like, if Daisy can do it, so can I you
you
know
can
and
do it.
and so what would you tell someone who's still standing at the base of their mountain?
That's what I always say, right? Let's say you forgot your jacket to climb this. Let's say you were like, "Dang, I bought the ticket. I'm here. I underpacked or I have no idea what I'm doing anymore." You either muster up the courage on your own to figure it out, right? Or there's people in your community too, so widening up your community. There's people that naturally will come up to you and make you feel welcomed when you don't feel welcomed. Or there's people that will sometimes be like, "Hey, I need help." And so I think you have to also align yourself in a place where people can help you or you can ask for help. Because I think that I like to believe that the world is filled with people that do want to help you, that do want to help you succeed. And so someone who might be stuck and like unsure, if you're the type that can muster the courage to get yourself going where you need to go, then great, go. But if you're not, then put yourself somewhere where maybe someone can say, "Hey, let's climb this together. I'm going to help you every step of the way." And I'm like, reach out to me. I will help you. Like
Mhm.
I love this. I've always loved being the type, and it definitely comes from like an inner child thing where I never really had anyone to help me. So now I kind of project in the sense of like I want to help everybody where I can, of course. There's also areas where I'm like, let's find someone else, but like let's still get you to the right person. So don't fear what you don't know. That's kind of easier said than done, right? That's like anxiety. So write it down, create your Mount Everest and repivot, think about it, relax for a moment, and then say, I want to continue to do this.
I like that. It's definitely a journey for sure, because I feel like, especially mapping out your Mount Everest, it's not going to come in one night. Because I know for me, it took me months to figure out kind of like what I wanted to pursue and like the steps I wanted to take on my Mount Everest. And yeah, it definitely takes time to actually sit down and ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I want to pursue? And I feel like it's really important to pursue things that really light that fire in you, because I feel like that will sustain you more on your climb. And so, Daisy, this leads us to the last question for this interview. I asked my guests the same question, and here it goes. For life to feel and look authentic to you, what terms are required?
For life to be authentic. I mean, I think the number one that just comes up to me is like, do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. But again, it's pivoting your life to where you want it authentically, not for other people, not for, the validation of others. And then again, that's inner work. So like, if you realize that we have so many resources, like even as something as like Chat GPT, kind of like, hey, get to know me a little bit and then tell me based off of what I told you, how can I change or accomplish this fear or live more authentically? And so I say, like, I mean, it comes with time and experience. So I only started discovering myself fully. And I say, like, keep living that, make the mistakes, do the things that you do because it's going to shape you and you're going to become this. It's literally like, girl, people are like butterflies. They really are, do your thing and you're going to blossom. Yeah, that's what I would say is living authentically.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Daisy, where can everyone find you?
Everywhere. No, so truly, I always say my Instagram, of course, at Daisy Romero with an extra O, or TikTok, Pinterest, writing. I love when people just write, or even an email. I always say, when you really want to connect with someone, you'll do anything and everything to get what you want. And if you don't, then you just didn't want to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Daisy, for joining me.
Thank you. I love this. I love On My Terms. I'm obsessed. You're doing such inspirational stuff.